In the small city of Siena in Italy, there's a church. Well, there are actually 36 churches, but only one of them is important right now. The Basilica of San Domenico. It's a beautiful example of Cistercian Gothic architecture, and I'm sure a lot of other cool stuff, but there's only one reason it's important to me.
They have a human head on display.
I'm gonna tell you how it got there, but I have to warn you, it's a crazy story that involves that head while it was alive and attached to a person, praying so hard it levitated, eating nothing but the body of Christ for 7 years, and marrying Jesus about 1300 years after he died. This is the story of St. Catherine of Siena. In the year 1347, which was a totally fun and normal year, St. Catherine was born in the Republic of Siena. And fun fact, so was the color Sienna. Not the Toyota Sienna, though. Catherine was the 23rd or 24th child. She was a twin, born to her parents whose names I'm not even going to try and pronounce. Her twin sister died shortly after she was born, leaving Catherine all alone with her 22 other siblings, and one more like a couple years later. Around the age of 5, Catherine started having these visions of Jesus, and they were pretty chill at the start. It was mostly just him hanging out with his friends Peter and Paul, but as her short life went on, they started getting more and more powerful and more weird. When Catherine was 16, her older sister died in childbirth, and her parents wanted her to marry her sister's widow, and she didn't want to do this. So in protest, she shaved off all her hair and she started like a hunger strike, and it worked. Like, they listened to her. They were like, okay, fine, you can do whatever you want. And she kind of took that to heart because fasting would become like an integral part of her life, and also the thing that killed her. She believed that fasting brought her closer to God because it would intensify these visions she was having. And in a way, that's probably true, because when she was 21 years old, she had a vision where she married Jesus. And that's not even the weird part. So when you get married, you usually put on a ring. If you had to guess a body part that would make for a good ring to put onto your finger, what body part would you think would work best? I'll give you a few seconds. If you guessed foreskin, something's wrong with you. And also, you're right. She thought she wore Jesus' foreskin, also known as the Holy Prepuce. She claimed that while no one else could see it, she could see the Holy Prepuce on her finger at all times. Which, me personally, even if I love this person with all my heart, I don't want almost anything to do with their foreskin or their prepuce. I am sincerely sorry to be the one telling you this, but one time St. Catherine was caring for this woman who had breast cancer, and she had these big, like, pus-filled lumps in her breasts, and this disgusted Catherine. She thought it was so nasty. To help her get over this disgust, she took a ladle and she filled it with the pus and she drank it. Catherine claimed to love it though, saying that never in my life have I tasted any food and drink sweeter or more exquisite. So I don't know, maybe we should try it. Maybe she was onto something. I loved breastfeeding when I was a baby. Catherine also claimed to have received the stigmata, which is basically like a series of scars or markings with corresponding locations to where Jesus was like nailed to the cross. So hands and feet and like maybe something in your side.
So nobody would be able to talk about the big weird hole in my hand.
The stigmata is like a really like upper echelon saint thing to receive. Like, you're considered extra holy. In 1378, St. Catherine was summoned to Rome at the request of Pope Urban VI. Cool name. Basically, he wanted her help convincing people that he was the real pope. That was its whole entire thing. But by this point, St. Catherine's fasting had gotten so extreme that apparently she was down to 1 Eucharist a day. Now, I think that's probably BS, but she also was barely eating, and she claimed that she couldn't keep anything down, like it would all immediately come right back up. And apparently the fasting was paying off because a bunch of really weird stuff started happening. She apparently started like levitating while she was praying. One time she was in mass and the priest claimed that the Eucharist flew right out of his holy hand and into her holy mouth. Probably not. On April 21st, 1380, St. Catherine suffered a massive stroke, likely due to the fact that she had barely eaten anything for like 7 years, and she died in Rome 8 days later on April 29th, 1380, at the age of 33. But that's not where her story ends, baby. Because she was buried in Rome, people of her hometown of Siena thought she should be buried in Siena. So they went to Rome, they dug her up, and they took her head. And they placed it on display in a church for all to see. Which is great, because now she gets to be in church forever. Isn't that fun? Don't you love... I went to church for like 1 hour a week as a kid sometimes, and that was too much for me. And that is where her head is still on display today. I was there like a month ago and I saw it. And they also have her thumb for some reason. Maybe it's meant to symbolize that you're doing a good job. Thanks, St. Catherine. It is cool to be able to like go look at a 650-year-old head, but in the time since I saw it, there have just been some questions on my mind. Questions like, why are they keeping her head in the church? Here's what I found out.
Catholics love relics.
It was really common practice for them to just like take an arm bone from a saint to be like, put this in a church, it'll bring you closer to God. Until like recently, like there are relics from saints from the 1800s, and there are a lot more than just St. Catherine's head. In the Catholic Church, relics are classified into 3 categories. So there's a first-class relic, which is an object associated with Jesus, or an actual body part of a saint, like bones or hair, or I don't know, an entire head. Then there are second-class relics, which are like items that a saint used or wore, like a rosary or like a robe. And then there are third-class relics, which are by far the worst relics. They're just something that was like touched to a first-class relic. So if I were to like take this hat and touch it to like a saint's femur, then this would be a third-class relic. They're basically like the museum gift shop version of a relic. And for the purposes of not making this video 45 minutes long, we're just going to talk about first-class relics. There are some weird first-class relics out there, like St. Magnus and St. Bonosa's entire skeletons that are on display in Louisville, Kentucky, or St. Rita's full corpse, which is on display, and sometimes they take it out of the glass for photo ops. My favorite collection of first-class relics is the Capuchin Crypt in Rome, which is decorated with over 4,000 skulls of Capuchin friars. And if you're like me, you're probably thinking, the monkeys? And as much as I wish there were little monkey monks, they're just like a group of dudes. But it turns out the Capuchin Crypt is the most metal place on earth. It looks like the extreme home makeover bedroom of a serial killer. So as I was reading into these holy relics, this one word kept coming up over and over and over again: incorruptible. Incorruptibility is the Catholic belief that when somebody who is very holy dies, sometimes they're so holy that their bodies just don't decompose. They're like plastic or Paul Rudd.
Hey, look at us.
There are about 100 known incorrupt saints in one form or another. Some of them completely intact, like we looked at before. Some of them are just pieces, a leg, an arm, a head, but they're on display in churches all over the world. You could probably go see one this weekend if you wanted to, especially if you live in Europe. Europeans love putting saints' bodies in churches almost as much as they love building churches. Now, obviously, incorruptibility is not like a real thing as far as divine intervention goes. It's more likely that they were embalmed and then the records were just lost or forgotten, or the circumstances around the burial were just so perfect that it led to them like essentially being mummified. Another thing about incorruptibility, and this is the thing that like I keep telling people because I still can't believe that it's real. So there's something called the odor of sanctity. Basically, when these saints who are probably going to be incorruptible saints, when they die, they smell sweet. I'm just going to read you the definition from Wikipedia. The odor of sanctity, according to the Catholic Church, is commonly understood to mean a specific scent, often compared to flowers, that emanates from the bodies of saints, especially from the wounds of the stigmata. Why are you smelling them, though? Why? Also, the page never mentioned that there's like any sort of lull between them dying and them smelling good. Like, it seems to be pretty much immediate. Like, as soon as they die, it's like poof, delicious smelling corpses. If you actually want to know the scientific reasoning behind the odor of sanctity, what is believed is that these saints were fasting, and when you fast for like a really long time, like really extreme ways, it puts your body into ketosis, which produces acetone. And when acetone is not in nail polish remover, apparently it smells really, really good. So when these saints die from how much they've been fasting, their body releases that acetone, and that is the sweet smell. And it's probably really nice if you can get over the fact that it's coming off of a dead person. So when it comes to St. Catherine of Siena, it seems like when she died, they decapitated her and put her head in a church because they wanted to look at it. And can we blame them? That's the whole reason I went to that church. That's the whole reason you clicked on this video. Which, thanks for doing that, by the way. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and if you do so, I will give you a part of my body when I die.